Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. I shoved the bar door open with my shoulder, phone still in my hand. My name is Aaron and I am 27, already halfway to pissed. My brother had ignored 3 calls and 6 texts in 1 hour. By that point, my brain was running every worst-case scenario. None of them were even close to what I actually walked into. The noise hit first and helped me slip in without anyone noticing. I stood near the entrance a second, letting my eyes adjust slowly. I checked my screen again and saw my last text still unread. You ever stare at delivered and feel like it is mocking you? That was me, chewing my lip and pretending I was still calm. I started moving toward the bar, weaving around shoulders and tables. My brother comes here a lot, so I expected him in his usual lane. I lifted my phone to call again and heard nothing over the music. No buzz on a nearby table, no familiar ringtone cutting through chatter. Something about that silence made my stomach pull tight like a knot. The bartender spotted me and lifted his chin in a quick greeting. I leaned in and practically yelled my brother's name across the counter. He wiped his hands on a towel and pointed toward the back booths. That tiny gesture pushed me in a direction I really regret now. If he had shrugged instead, I might have just turned around. I walked past a row of high tables, scanning every face automatically. My mind was locked on my brother, so I almost missed the first clue. Jake's laugh slipped through the noise, that low, stupid sound I knew. I stopped mid-step because my brain needed a second to catch up. Hearing my boyfriend here when he was supposed to be at home. I turned my head and followed the sound to the corner booth. I saw the back of his jacket first, shoulders relaxed and easy. A woman's hand rested on his leg like it lived there permanently. For a second I thought, please let that be some random coworker. Then she leaned closer, and I recognized the curve of her jawline. Laura. My sister-in-law. To be clear, I am not dramatic by default, I usually over-explain. In that moment, my entire vocabulary vanished and left one thought. What the hell am I looking at, and why are they so comfortable? She was saying something quietly, head tilted toward his neck almost. He grinned and brushed a stray strand of hair behind her ear slowly. His fingers stayed there longer than any friendly gesture should stay. Her hand slid higher on his leg, casual like she had done it before. I felt my pulse jump so hard I could hear it over the crowd. I froze a few feet away, half-turned, pretending to check my messages. I knew if I rushed them, everyone would stare and I might scream. So I did the coward thing and watched for another painful 10 seconds. I wanted any excuse, any detail that made this less than betrayal. Instead, I watched her laugh and press her forehead against his shoulder. Looking back, that was the second I stopped being naive about us. At the time, though, I told myself maybe they were planning something. Some surprise for my brother, some weird emotional support moment. You start building these fake stories fast when you're scared. I clung to them long enough to keep my legs from giving out. I tried my brother again while I stood there, thumb shaking on call. No answer, no voicemail, just the same empty ringing in my ear. I checked our family group chat and saw he was active an hour ago. So he was alive somewhere and I was just alone with this scene. It felt like the floor under me moved half an inch to the side. Jake shifted in his seat and my heart jumped into my throat fast. He reached for his drink and his gaze swept the room in a lazy circle. I dropped my eyes, pretending to scroll through something important. You know that childish move where you hide behind your phone? That was me, 30 seconds from impact and still ducking. I looked up again and this time Laura caught me straight on. Her smile died in stages, first mouth, then eyes, then whole body. Her fingers lifted off his leg like my stare burned straight through. She whispered his name, barely moving her lips, and nudged his arm. I watched realization crawl up his spine before he finally turned. Jake's eyes landed on me and widened like he had seen a ghost. He went pale, then red, then did this useless half-smile I hate. His hand slid off the table as if he wanted to reach toward me. I did not move, I just stared back and waited for something honest. For one breathless second, all 3 of us hung there between lies. I turned away before any of them spoke, legs moving on autopilot toward the exit. Behind me, I heard chairs scrape and something glass hit the table hard. My throat burned like I had swallowed hot water too fast. I pushed through a couple in the doorway and hit fresh air like a wall. The door swung again and footsteps hurried after me across the sidewalk. "Aaron, wait," his fingers caught my wrist and pulled me halfway back. I yanked free and faced him because running would haunt me later. Up close his smile was gone, just this tight panic twitch around his mouth. "You blindside me in there and you want me to wait." My voice came out sharp and louder than I meant it to be. He glanced toward the windows like he expected Laura to appear. That tiny nervous look told me a lot more than his words. "It's not what it looked like," his hands spread in this weak defense. "If someone says that to you, your brain fills every possible horror. Then start with why her hand was on your leg like that." I crossed my arms because I needed something to hold together. He dragged a palm down his face, buying time, lining up excuses. "She wanted to talk about your brother, somewhere he wouldn't overhear." The way he used the word "your" landed heavy and deliberate between us. He's been losing it on her lately, and she needed someone neutral. The neutral part stung more than I expected, like I was some stranger. She has friends, she has a therapist, she has actual options. I took a step closer so he had to look directly at me. And suddenly, the only person who can comfort her is my boyfriend. The bar door opened again, and we both flinched in the same direction. Laura stepped out, checking her phone first, then spotting us immediately. For 1 second I hoped she would look guilty enough to end this. Instead, she straightened her shoulders like she was walking into rehearsal. "Aaron, I swear I dragged him into this whole thing." She moved toward us slowly. Her eyes were shiny, not sure if from drinks or stress or performance. She reached for my arm and stopped when I leaned back out of range. "This is about your brother and his temper, not about me and Jake." That word temper hung in the air like a threat I had heard before. I knew they had been fighting more, slammed doors during family dinners, tense smiles. Hearing it used now twisted the knife in a new direction and hurt. Because what if this really was about safety, and I was being selfish? I exhaled hard and stared between them, trying to read tiny details. Her mascara was slightly smeared, his collar a little off-center. Nothing you could present in court, nothing that screamed obvious affair yet. Just these small wrong angles that refused to settle inside my chest. If this is about him yelling, why were you sitting practically on him? My question came out slower, tired now, almost begging for a decent reason. Laura rubbed her arms like she felt cold even though it was warm. I was freaking out and he was trying to keep me from spiraling. Jake nodded quickly, too quickly, like they had practiced this exact line. "You know how your brother gets when he drinks too much and snaps." He lowered his voice on that last word, like we were sharing a secret. "I didn't want to dump more pressure on you, you already carry enough." That last part hit an ugly soft spot I did not want touched. Because yeah, I do end up holding a lot of family mess quietly. Hearing him say it out loud made me feel seen and manipulated at once. It is wild how you can feel grateful and suspicious in the same breath. "So you two sneak around to talk about his anger issues behind my back." I almost laughed because the logic sounded ridiculous and still plausible. Laura pressed her lips together and actually winced, which confused me. "If he knew I told you, he'd blow up on both of us." There it was, the fear card, laid right in the middle. I hate that it worked on me even for a second that night. Because the thought of him shouting at her again made my stomach clench. I could already picture the next holiday, everyone pretending nothing happened. I get wanting backup, I don't get the touching part at all. My voice dropped lower, more tired than angry now, which scared me. Laura glanced at Jake like she needed permission, then looked back quickly. I grabbed him when I started crying, it wasn't some gross flirt thing. Was that true, half true, completely staged? I still do not know. In that moment though, my brain grabbed the least painful version available. I told myself I walked in during the one worst second of it. One frame out of context, one awful angle, nothing more than bad timing. Jake took a careful step closer, hands still empty and visible between us. "Come home with me, we can talk without an audience staring through glass." His voice dropped soft and earnest, the tone he used when we fought. He knew exactly how to sound like someone trying very hard to fix things. I looked past him through the bar window and saw people watching openly. A couple at the counter pretended to check their phones and failed badly. I felt stupid standing there, like a reality show extra who missed the script. That embarrassment pushed me more than any actual belief in their story. Fine, I am not doing this as a public show. I jerked my head toward the parking lot and started walking first. Boots behind me matched my pace, one set heavier, one lighter and quicker. I did not check if Laura followed, I just wanted distance from the doorway. At the cars, she stopped a few steps back, hugging herself like armor. Please don't tell him I dragged you into this, not yet anyway. Her voice shook slightly on the word please, and I hated that it worked. I gave the smallest nod, not a promise, more like a temporary ceasefire. Jake unlocked the car and opened the passenger door in this old habit. I hesitated, hand on the frame, wondering if getting in meant forgiving him. It did not, but it did mean postponing the explosion to a private space. I slid into the seat and stared straight ahead while he walked around. The drive started in silence so thick I could hear every breath between us. He tapped the steering wheel twice, a nervous tick I had never noticed. Say something, anything, because this quiet is freaking me out. His laugh came out high and wrong, and I kept my eyes on the road. What exactly am I supposed to say to that scene? My words landed flat and sharp, no volume, just this cold edge. You tell me you trust me, that you know I would not hurt you. He glanced over quickly, then looked back at the traffic like it saved him. Trust does not survive mystery hand placement, that is not how that works. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips, gripping the side of the seat. If this is really about my brother, then we deal with him together. I turned toward him finally, waiting for him to either double down or crack. He exhaled so hard his shoulders dropped, like he had been holding air. You're right, I handled this in the worst possible way tonight. That tiny admission hit me harder than a full confession would have. Because it sounded reasonable enough to stick and rotten underneath. We pulled into the lot of our building and sat there with the engine running. He leaned his head back and stared at the roof like it could answer. I will tell you everything about her calls and messages, I promise. The word everything made my skin prickle because I had not asked yet. I got out without replying and heard his door open a beat later. Inside the apartment, he moved around carefully, like the floor might break. He brought me a glass of water and set it down within reach, then stepped back. These small, attentive moves almost worked on the part of me that craved normal. I should have looped you in from the first time she reached out. He stood near the counter, watching me, thumbs rubbing his palms in circles. Can we hit pause tonight and talk when everyone's sober and calm? He sounded tired and gentle, which is a dangerous combination for me. I wanted to throw him out, I also wanted to pretend this never happened. Both instincts battled while I stared at a random spot on the table. One more thing, and do not lie, because I am done with soft answers. My chest felt tight as I asked it, but I asked anyway. Has anything ever happened between you two beyond tonight's weird scene? His gaze met mine immediately, like he had trained for this exact line. No, never, I swear, I would never cross that line with her. The speed of it scared me more than if he had paused and thought. I nodded slowly, not because I believed him, but because I was exhausted. Your brain taps out at some point and chooses whatever hurts less right then. We moved through the rest of the evening like we were acting in a play. Every gesture practiced, every word careful, every silence loaded and heavy. When he finally climbed into bed, he wrapped an arm around my waist. He pulled me close, almost too close, like he was anchoring himself. I love you, you know that, right? His breath warmed the back of my neck. I lay there frozen, counting heartbeats, wondering when that sentence stopped feeling safe. He fell asleep faster than I thought possible after a night like that. I listened to his breathing even out and stared into the dark space ahead. The image of Laura's hand on his leg replayed in a loop I could not stop. Each time my mind zoomed closer on some small detail I had missed before. Around midnight, my phone buzzed on the nightstand and made me jump. A short message from my brother flashed, just asking if I was okay. Nothing about the bar, nothing about Laura, just that simple check-in. The normal tone of it made the whole night feel even more twisted. I looked over at Jake, sprawled and peaceful, his screen face down beside him. A faint notification glow leaked out from under the black glass edge. I knew if I reached for it now, something in our life might break for good. So I stayed still, eyes open, letting the lie we built that night settle like dust. I scooped his phone off the nightstand the second the shower started. My hand moved faster than my common sense, which says a lot. Steam hissed through the bathroom door and covered the sound of my BR. If you have ever snooped, you know that stupid, dizzy feeling. The lock screen stared back at me, waiting, daring me to keep going. I already knew the code from a dozen casual moments, nothing dramatic. He never hit it, which now feels either trusting or very cocky. My thumb hesitated over the numbers, then muscle memory punched them in. The screen unlocked and my chest tightened so hard I almost laughed. It worked, that simple, no alarms, no flashing warning, just everything wide open. For a second I almost locked it again and pretended this never happened. Instead I sat cross-legged on the bed and pulled it closer. I told myself I would only check notifications, nothing deeper, nothing private. Quick glance clear my head, prove I was being paranoid and anxious. That is the lie everyone tells right before they dive into the abyss. The messaging app icon glowed with a small number in the corner. I tapped it and his conversations loaded in a neat vertical line. Work names, group chats, random automated reminders, all the usual digital noise. At the top, pinned above everyone, sat a thread with one simple name. Laura, no emoji, no extra symbol, just clean letters holding my stomach hostage. My thumb hovered over it long enough for the shower to run hotter. I actually whispered, "Don't be stupid," into the empty room to myself. Then I remembered her hand resting on his leg, and my vision sharpened. I opened the thread before I could talk myself out of it. The most recent messages hit me first because that is how phones work. Her bubble from earlier that day sat near the bottom, short and casual. "Are you sure tonight is safe?" Her words felt heavier than they looked. Underneath, his reply blinked up at me like it wanted to confess. "Yeah, she thinks I'm just grabbing drinks with coworkers after work." He had even added a stupid laughing emoji, light and easy and careless. My name was right there, shortened, used like a punchline between them. I felt something inside me drop, not dramatic, more like a quiet snap. I scrolled up in short jerks too fast, then back down for details. Most of it looked almost normal at first glance, which messed with me. Complaints about my brother, updates about fights, questions about what to say. Buried inside those lines, though, the tone kept sliding sideways slowly. "You're the only one who actually listens." That was from her a week ago. "You deserve better than being yelled at every night." That was him. My jaw clenched because that part was not the worst, honestly. The worst was how familiar his comfort sounded, like a script he used. I caught a message from her late one evening that froze my thumb. "Last time helped so much, I keep replaying that night in my head." His answer sat right underneath, only 3 words, simple and loaded. "Same place Friday." No explanation, no clarifying detail, just confident planning. My heart hammered in my ears and drowned out the running water. I tapped the screen to open the search bar inside their chat. This is where I admit I turned full detective with zero training. I typed one word into the field and hit search like it owed me. "Hotel." The app highlighted 3 separate messages, spaced out over different days. I jumped to the oldest one first, hands sweating all over the phone. "That hotel is out of the way, no one will see us there." His text, not hers, his suggestion, his idea of private support. The second result landed on a conversation from 2 weeks after that. "Same hotel works, I still think about how calm I felt afterward." That one was hers, and I wanted to throw the phone through the wall. Calm is not usually the word people use for talking in a lobby. The most recent result dragged me right back to that same place Friday line. Now with the other 2 in my head, it sounded completely different. Not like friends grabbing coffee, not like family venting in a safe space. More like a routine they both knew by heart, scheduled and practiced. I backed out of the search and stared at the timeline as a whole. Something looked off, not just emotionally, but literally, visually off. Dates jumped in weird ways, like whole stretches had been surgically cut. Messages went from one day straight to a week later with no gap. Part of me wanted to believe the app glitched, some sync issue, whatever. The rest of me knew exactly what manual deletion looks like in a thread. You feel the missing days, like empty shelves where something used to sit. I scrolled slower, counting little timestamps, tracking every sudden skip. There were gaps around nights I remembered him coming home extra late. Not always, but enough times to make my skin crawl and my pulse race. Each blank section lined up with some vague excuse he had thrown out. Running over, or traffic sucks, or my boss kept us longer than expected. I stopped on one surviving snippet wedged between two obvious gaps. Laura had writ, "And I still smell you on my clothes," then a laughing emoji. His answer had been trimmed, starting mid-thought in a strange way. "Wash it yet," kind of like that, "I'm stuck with you." He had tried to erase something and left the back half sitting there. That clumsy mistake helped me more than any full confession would have. You know that feeling when a puzzle piece clicks exactly where you feared? My chest went tight and my fingers cramped around the phone body. Water cut off in the bathroom and made my whole spine jolt. I slammed the chat closed and jumped back to his home screen. Apps stared up at me like nothing happened, like I was overreacting again. My hands flicked through other icons anyway, chasing one more confirmation. The photo gallery almost opened out of habit, then I pulled back. Some part of me still hoped I was misreading, twisting things, going too far. Looking at pictures felt like stepping off a ledge I could not climb. So I hovered over it, frozen, listening for him to start singing. He did, a few off-key notes leaking under the door, unexpectedly light. That stupid casual humming told me he felt comfortable, maybe even relieved. He had no idea what I was holding while he washed his hair. He had no idea the version of us in my head had started dying. I forced myself back into the messages one more time, rapid and focused. This time I checked the tiny info screen attached to her contact. It showed call logs, long ones, late night ones, longer than hours lately. Hours sitting there in cold numbers, telling me who he really prioritized. A fresh text popped in while I was still on that page and I flinched. New bubble from Laura, timestamped right that second, right while he showered. "Let me know if everything is still okay for Friday," with a heart. The timing hit me like a slap, like she knew exactly where he was. I did not answer, obviously, but my thumb hovered near the keyboard anyway. For half a second I imagined replying, "Ask him yourself, he's in the shower." That urge felt wild and petty and honest all at once in my chest. Instead I backed out so fast I almost dropped the device on the floor. The bathroom fan clicked off and silence rushed in under the door. I wiped my fingerprints on my shorts even though that made no sense. The phone went back to the same spot on his side of the bed. Screen dark, face down, like a loaded thing pretending to be harmless. When he walked out, hair damp, towel around his waist, I watched him. He grabbed the phone without even looking, like he always did every night. One quick swipe, a glance, the faintest twitch at the corner of his mouth. Whatever he read there, he tucked it away before his eyes met mine. "Everything good?" He leaned in to kiss my forehead, all casual and soft. His skin smelled clean and warm and my stomach lurched at the contrast. I heard myself answer, "Yeah," in this flat voice that did not sound mine. Inside, every part of me was screaming that nothing was actually good. Later, when he turned off the light and shifted closer, I stayed awake. I replayed each line from that chat until they blurred together. Hotel, same place, stuck with you, all of it looping under his breathing. That was the night I stopped wondering if I was overreacting and started planning. I was awake before his alarm and watching his hand on the phone. Every time he shifted, my pulse jumped like he might check the screen. He finally rolled over, kissed my shoulder, and headed for the shower. The second the water started, I reached across the bed again. Last time had been panic. This time was strategy. I told myself that as my fingers closed around the device. I already knew there was more than those 3 hotel messages. I unlocked it in one quick move and went straight for the thread. The chat with Laura opened like it had been waiting for me all night. Same bubbles, same gaps, same neat little edited storyline. Knowing pieces were missing made every empty space feel louder. I tapped the top of the screen and pulled up the contact details. No romantic nickname, no hearts, nothing obvious a child could spot. Just her full name and a list of recent calls underneath. 3 long ones stared back at me from the past 2 weeks. I checked the duration on each call and did the math in my head. There were nights he told me he was exhausted and falling asleep early. Those same nights were clocking almost an hour with her on his call log. That mismatch hit harder than any cute emoji in their messages. From there, I jumped to the photos, because of course I did. My thumb hovered over the icon for a beat that felt endless. If I opened it, I knew I would lose the last thin excuse I had. I pressed it anyway because I had already crossed every line. The gallery popped up with his most recent shots in a grid. Work stuff, random receipts, a crooked picture of our takeout. Nothing scandalous, nothing with a hotel bed noth. NG with her face. If I had stopped there, I might have believed I overreacted. But anger makes you thorough in a way love never does. I hit the search bar and typed her name, just in case he tagged anything. Nothing came up, which honestly would have been too easy. So I opened the albums list and kept digging. One folder was synced from his account in the cloud, small and dull. I tapped into it and felt my chest tighten before I even saw anything. The layout changed and a different timeline appeared, older and messier. He had backed up far more here than on the main camera roll. I scrolled past work conferences and random parties and lazy weekends. Then I froze on a thumbnail where his jawline looked familiar next to a blur. I opened it and the blur sharpened straight into Laura's face. She was laughing, head tipped back, his hand resting on her waist. My first reaction was stupid. I squinted, hunting for some distant friend in the background. If my brother had been there, I might have spun another excuse. The only people in frame were the two who swore it was innocent. I checked the date stamped at the top of the screen and felt dizzy. It was the same night we had gone out to celebrate our anniversary. I remembered him ducking away to take a call from work for a bit. That gap now had a clear, ugly picture to fill it. The next photo hit harder. Laura sat sideways on his lap in a dark corner booth. Her arms were looped around his neck, mouth near his ear. His face was turned toward her, eyes half closed, smiling like it was natural. I zoomed in on their hands because I wanted to torture myself apparently. His fingers were hooked in the belt loop of her jeans, casual and greedy. One of her hands was tucked under his shirt at the back. No way to spin that into comfort or support or any family meeting. That was the moment my brain stopped trying to smooth anything over. My body actually felt cold, even though the room was not. I sat there on the edge of our bed with proof glowing in my hands. And the only thing I could think was, of course it was a hotel. Footsteps shifted in the bathroom and snapped me out of the spiral. Water still ran, which meant I had a few more precious seconds. I backed out of the main gallery and scrolled to the trash folder. If he had purged anything, it would live there for a while. The deleted album held a bunch of boring junk at first glance. Screenshots, blurry shots, accidental bursts, random memes. Hidden near the bottom were shots that matched the bar photos. Same night, same clothes, just different angles and closer contact. One image showed his neck with a smear of lipstick on the skin. Only the corner of her hair made it into frame, but I recognized it. Another was a selfie of the two of them, heads pressed together. That one had been removed recently, the timer below it still counting down. I recovered all the suspicious ones before I could second-guess myself. Save to device. Save to device. Each tap felt like loading ammunition into something I had not named yet. Then I saw a short video thumbnail with no preview image, just a play icon. My thumb shook when I tapped it because I knew. The clip opened on a hotel hallway, camera angled down and unsteady. His shoes came into view, then Laura's legs, then her pushing the door. They stumbled inside, laughing low, trying to keep quiet. He swung the camera up just enough to catch her shushing him. He pulled her by the waist, she wrapped her legs around him. The video cut right when they reached the bed, like he had realized the risk. I almost threw up watching it, no exaggeration, my whole body revolted. I closed the clip and sat very still, like any movement might shatter me. That hallway view stayed burned into my brain anyway, looping nonstop. It felt cheap and real at the same time, which made it worse. I checked the date on the video out of habit and cursed it out loud. It fell 2 days after I had been sick on our couch with a migraine. He had brought me soup, kissed my forehead, and gone out that night. Just for a little while to clear my head, he had said. Now I knew exactly where he had gone to clear it. Those realizations stack in your chest until you can barely inhale. The worst part is how fast your mind starts connecting every loose memory. Every late return, every vague explanation, every shower taken right away. The shower shut off and my whole body jolted again. I locked the phone, set it face down where it had been, and moved away. By the time he stepped out, I was at the dresser pretending to dig for clothes. My heart was racing so loudly, I was amazed he could not hear it. He walked over, dropped a quick kiss near my temple, and reached past me. His hand brushed the phone, picked it up, and checked the screen. I watched his face in the mirror while he read whatever waited. A tiny flicker crossed his eyes, gone so quickly I almost doubted it. Laura W. Ants to know if we can all get together soon. He said it casually, setting the device back down like it meant nothing. I kept my expression neutral, which took more effort than it sounds. Yeah, that sounds fun, I answered, and my voice barely shook. I know how that sounds now, trust me. Sitting there saying yes to group hang after watching that hotel video. But at that point, I needed more than screenshots in a cloud folder. I needed to see how far they were willing to carry the lie. He left for work an hour later, after the usual small talk and routine. His goodbye kiss lingered a second longer, maybe guilt, maybe habit. The door closed behind him, and the apartment dropped into sharp silence. I stood in the middle of the room, wondering what to do first. I did not go for the phone again. This time I opened his laptop on the desk, fingers already tense. The password was the same, because of course it was. Within seconds I was staring at his email inbox. I searched her name and watched a whole new set of messages appear. Some were old, some were recent, some had subject lines that were nothing. Receipt, question, can you check this, all harmless on the surface. I opened one from a month earlier and felt my jaw clench. It was a hotel confirmation under her name with his email as backup. Different town from where we live, still within driving distance. 2 guests one night, simple as that. Below it was a forward from him to her, with a single line. Booked same place as before. I checked the date against the bar photos I had just saved. They matched almost perfectly, which told me this was a pattern. Not some one-time mistake, not some weird emotional breakdown. Another email showed a ride receipt with a drop-off at that same hotel. The timestamp landed right when he told me he was stuck finishing a project. I remember sitting on our couch half asleep, waiting for him to come home. He had walked in later with that tired, heroic energy, like he had worked nonstop. Looking back, this was where any reasonable person would confront. I know that. Even now, I still argue with myself about not blowing it up right that second. But I kept thinking about my brother and my family and the fallout. Some twisted part of me wanted to see how deep their teamwork went. If my mother knew. If my brother had any clue. If I was the last one clinging to the version of reality they fed me. I forwarded the hotel confirmation and the bar pictures to my own email. Careful, deliberate, subject line blank, no text in the body. Then I deleted the sent copies and emptied that folder so he would not see. Covering my tracks while exposing theirs felt surreal. When I closed the laptop, I noticed my hands were actually shaking. It hit me that if he walked back in right then, everything would show on me. Not the screen, not the apps, just my face and how I breathed. Cheaters are not the only ones who learn to act in that situation. Later that day, when I should have been working, my brother called. His name on my screen made my throat tighten faster than any hotel receipt. I stared at it, thumb hovering, wondering how much he knew already. I let it ring twice before I finally answered. Hey, you good? His voice sounded normal, almost cheerful. I swallowed and forced my own tone into something light. Yeah, long morning, what's up? He hesitated just long enough for my stomach to flip again. Laura mentioned you looked upset outside the bar the other night. There it was. The story had already started traveling without me. I gripped the edge of the desk to keep my voice steady. What exactly did she say? I asked it slowly, trying not to push too hard. Something about you misunderstanding and thinking she was too close to Jake. He let out a small laugh, like the whole thing was ridiculous. Hearing him laugh about it almost hurt more than the video. Because that meant she was already framing the narrative on her side. I pictured them in their kitchen, her eyes big and wet, his jaw clenched. Me painted as the dramatic sister who misread a comforting moment. Do you think I misunderstood? The question came out flat, quieter than I meant. He shifted on the other end of the line. I could hear fabric move. I think you get stressed and jump to conclusions sometimes, yeah. That one sentence did something ugly inside me. I realized she did not even need to lie about facts. All she had to do was lean on my worst patterns and exaggerate them. Use my own history of anxiety as cover for what she was doing. I almost told him right then about the hotel confirmation. The clip in the hallway. The messages. Instead, I took a breath that hurt and chose a different path. I am not ready to talk about it yet, I said, voice tight. Just keep an eye on how he talks to you, okay? He went quiet, then snorted softly. Yeah, I can handle my own marriage, kid. We wrapped up that call with normal words and quick jokes. After we hung up, I sat there staring at the blank screen. It dawned on me that if I confronted them without proof saved, I was done. They would spin it, twist it, and I would look unhinged. So that afternoon, I backed everything up again. I saved copies of the photos to a drive he did not know about. I documented dates, times, and little details while they were fresh. It felt obsessive, but also like the only power I had left. That night he came home with groceries and this forced cheerful vibe. He cooked, he asked about my day, he kept reaching to touch my back. Every gesture felt rehearsed, like he had decided to be the perfect partner. That kind of effort is its own confession if you pay attention. At one point my phone buzzed on the counter next to his. Both screens lit up almost at the same time, side by side. My notification was from a friend, his from Laura. His eyes flicked to it, then to me, then back down. He flipped his phone over so the screen faced the counter. Work stuff, he muttered, even though I had not asked. That unnecessary explanation told me everything I needed to know. Innocent people do not predefend random messages like that. Later, when he showered again, I did not touch his device. I did not need to. I had seen enough, saved enough, connected enough dots. The real battle had shifted from finding proof to deciding what to do with it. Lying in the dark that night, I watched the ceiling and listened to him breathe. Every quiet inhale felt like time running out on the version of us he loved. I knew sooner or later, one of those deleted things would blow up in his face. I just had to decide whether I would be the one lighting the fuse. I put my phone on speaker and hit call before I could chicken out. The photos sat open on the screen, tiny traders lined up in a row. Laura answered on the second ring, all bright and normal and fake. We need to talk, just us, and it needs to be today. There was a beat of silence on her end, just breathing. Is this about the bar? Because I really thought. It's about you and Jake and a room you never mentioned. The words came out steady, which honestly surprised me. She sucked in air so sharp I could hear her lips drag over teeth. Where are you right now? Her voice had dropped low and tight. Parking lot under your place, come down or I come up. I stared at her building entrance and waited for the first move. She appeared at the door less than a minute later, hair scraped back. No makeup, no jewelry, just sweatpants and a stiff jawline. That small detail told me more than any apology could. She had not even tried to dress the moment up. We walked to the side of the lot where no neighbors usually lingered. She folded her arms across her chest and kept her distance. What did you find? No small talk, no fake smiles now. That question confirmed I was not the only one living with secrets. I unlocked my phone and held the screen up between us like a mirror. First image, her on his lap at the bar, her arms around his neck. Her eyes flicked over it with a flinch, then she swallowed hard. That was a mistake, she whispered, but I did not lower the device. I swiped to the next shot of them leaning against each other. Another angle same night, his hand hooked in her belt loop. She blinked fast, lips pressed tight, like she could blink it away. Please, not here, someone might see. Her gaze darted toward the building. Good, I answered, my throat raw, maybe they should all see. I moved to the short clip of the hallway, the one that gutted me. She reached out then, fingers trembling, but stopped before touching the phone. Her face drained, then flushed, then went strangely blank. How much did you watch? Her eyes stayed on the concrete near my shoes. Enough to know that was not a support meeting, I said. I almost added more, but rage was starting to taste metallic. The word stuck behind my teeth like something sharp. She finally looked up and met my stare head on. For a second I saw something like defeat, not just guilt. Then her shoulders lifted like she was carrying a whole building. I messed up, she breathed, but I swear it did not start like this. It never does, I cut in sharper than I meant. How many times did you mess up with him exactly? I did not want a poetic answer, I wanted numbers. I wanted something I could not talk myself out of later. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again like the words hurt. The hotel 3 times, she said finally, voice thin. The bar more than that, I do not know, we lost count. Her hand wiped across her forehead like she could erase the math. Hearing we made my stomach twist in a new direction. So you and my boyfriend were just out here losing track together. I laughed once, short and mean, because the alternatives were crying or screaming. Tell me when it started, do not leave out the ugly parts. She leaned against the low wall, arms hanging loose now, no defense. After one of the worst fights with your brother, she began, then paused. I held up a hand and she stopped mid-sentence. I do not want a story about him right now, stay with you. She nodded slowly, teeth catching her lower lip for a second. I called Jake to ask if you were with him, she continued. You were not, we ended up talking about everything for hours. Her fingers twisted together until the knuckles went pale. We met for coffee the next week, I needed a neutral ear. That phrase again, neutral ear, like he was some therapist for our family. I cried, he hugged me, and I did not pull away fast enough. Her eyes filled then, and she stared at the ground so I would not see. Did he kiss you first? The question came out colder than I felt inside. Her answer took far too long for my liking. Yes, she whispered, but I kissed him back longer. Hearing that hit different than watching the hallway clip. Videos can almost feel unreal, like scenes from a movie. Hearing her admit she leaned in, that she stayed, hurt worse. It meant she had choices, and she took the ones that wrecked us. Does my brother have any idea? I asked, every muscle tense. She shook her head quickly, hair swinging, eyes wide. No, God no, he thinks I am loyal to a fault. Her voice cracked on the word loyal, and I almost laughed again. So you lied to him and to me, and used Jake as your comfort toy. My words came out jagged, but I did not pull them back. She flinched but did not deny any part of it. Silence stretched between us until my ears rang with it. I took a breath that shook on the way out. Who else knows? I asked because I could feel there was more. Her gaze flicked toward her building again, then away. Your mom, she said, and the world tilted sideways. It landed with this weird delayed sting, like my brain refused it. I actually laughed once, short and shocked. Explain that sentence right now, I managed, voice strained. Because if she was lying, I needed to catch it fast. Laura swallowed hard and pushed herself off the wall. I could not keep pretending I was falling apart at family dinners. I drove to your parents' place one afternoon and broke down. She rubbed her arms like she was cold, even though the air felt normal. I told her I was scared of your brother's temper, that I felt alone. She asked who I trusted enough to talk to when he blew up. I mentioned Jake listens without judging, more than anyone else lately. Her voice went softer, like she was replaying that conversation in real time. She looked relieved for a second, which threw me. My chest tightened as she kept going, slower now. She said, good, Jake is steady, lean on him if you have to. I swear I felt something crack behind my ribs hearing that. You told my mother you were leaning on my boyfriend. I repeated the line because my brain refused to process it. And her reaction was basically a thumbs up. My hands had started trembling and I did not even notice. Laura shook her head quickly, eyes wide and red now. Not exactly, she said to be discreet, that your brother is fragile. She said if he finds out, he might spiral and do something stupid. She told me not to tell you unless it turned physical. That last word hung between us like poison. Not physical, I echoed, a bitter laugh slipping out. Did she ask where you met him or what you two were doing? Or did she just shove responsibility on you and pray it stayed quiet? Laura wiped under one eye with the back of her hand. I told her we met up sometimes to talk. I did not give details. She chose not to ask for specifics, Aaron. She did not want them. She just kept repeating that our family cannot handle another explosion. There it was. The core belief my family has tattooed under their skin. Keep the peace, even if it means ignoring the bomb in the living room. I felt tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. So she knew enough to be suspicious and still told you to continue. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog settling in. Did she ever check on me at all during your little vent sessions? Ask if her daughter seemed off while you used my partner as a diary. Something like shame flashed across Laura's face. She asked if you were doing okay with the bar thing, she answered. I told her you looked shaken but said you believed us. She just said, good, do not stir it up unless you have to. I actually went silent for a full 10 seconds. Not because I had nothing to say, but because too much crowded in. Anger at Laura, anger at Jake, a whole separate wave reserved for my mother. They had built this twisted little alliance and left me out of it. You realize she just protected him and sacrificed both of us. My voice came out low, even the dangerous kind of calm. She kept you quiet so her son would not fall. See his marriage problems. And she left me blind so her family photo stayed cute. Laura sank back against the wall again, shoulders sagging. I know, she whispered, I know how bad it looks said out loud. I kept telling myself if I fixed my marriage, everything else would fade. Her fingers dug into the sleeves of her sweatshirt until the fabric bunched. This is not a stain you just wash away, Laura. I stepped closer, not enough to touch, enough to force eye contact. Did you at least try to end it with him when she told you that? Or did be discreet feel like a free pass? I tried, she insisted, chin lifting in a small defensive move. I told him we needed distance, that it had gone too far. He agreed, then your brother blew up again, and I called Jake at midnight. She laughed once, a broken sound, like she hated herself for that sentence. You made him your emergency number, I said, each word heavy. While I was home thinking we were building a life, not a cover. I could feel my nails digging into my palms now. It grounded me, kept me from going completely off the rails. We never planned to fall for each other, she whispered suddenly. The phrase landed like a slap. I leaned in, eyes narrow. Do not you dare use that word with me. She shook her head, tears spilling over and streaking down fast. I am not asking you to forgive, I know I do not deserve it. I just need you to understand I did not start this to hurt you. At some point I stopped seeing you, and that is the part I hate most. That last line stung more than the rest. Because that is exactly what betrayal is, right? Someone stops seeing you as a person and turns you into background noise. A prop in their disaster, not a person with a life of her own. I am telling my brother, I said, voice quiet but steady now. Her head snapped up, panic flashing hard. Please, not yet, let me figure out how to leave him first. My therapist said I should plan carefully, not blow everything up at once. You already blew everything up, you just left me standing in the smoke. I did not have softness left for her at that point. You do not get to choreograph the fallout now that I finally know. Every word felt like lifting something heavy and tossing it away. She reached out then, fingertips grazing my wrist before I pulled back. If you tell him right now, he might go straight to your mom. You know how that goes, suddenly I am the crazy one again. And you end up stuck between all of us like always. That last part landed because it was not wrong. I have been the buffer my entire life, the one smoothing edges. Hearing her use that pattern as an argument made me feel used all over again. I pulled my arm completely out of her reach. Here is what is going to happen, I said, surprising myself with the certainty. I am going to your mother's house today, and I am giving her one chance. Either she tells the truth when this breaks, or she stands alone with you two. If she tries to spin me as unstable again, I am done for real. Laura looked terrified, but she did not argue further. She just nodded slowly, like someone accepting a sentence. I will tell Jake it is over, she murmured almost to herself. I should have ended it the second I realized I liked his attention too much. That was the first honest thing she had said all morning. I turned away before she could see it land. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my mother lit up the screen before I even sat down. Can you stop by this afternoon? Need to talk about something. I stared at the message for a long second. Either Laura had already reached out, or my life was glitching. Either way, the timing felt too perfect to ignore. I typed back on my way now and hit send. My hands were steady again, which scared me a little. There is a point where hurt morphs into this sharp, clear focus. I was squarely in that zone driving over there. When she opened the door, her face was already arranged into concern. She pulled me into a tight hug, too tight, lingering a little too long. I let it happen, arms stiff at my sides. Come in, we should sit for this, she murmured. We ended up at the kitchen table, like every tense conversation before. She folded her hands on the surface and watched me closely. Laura called, she started, and I almost rolled my eyes. Of course she had. Before you try to manage me, I cut in, you should see something. I unlocked my phone and slid it toward her, same folder open. Her fingers hovered, then tapped the first image with a tiny shiver. I watched her mouth tighten as each picture loaded. By the time she reached the clip, her jaw was clenched hard. She did not press play, just stared at the thumbnail for a long second. Then she pushed the phone back with 2 careful fingers. That video goes where I think it goes, she asked quietly. Yes, I answered my voice. Z study. And the dates line up with nights he told me he was working. I held her gaze, refusing to look away this time. The thing I need to know is how much you knew and when. She inhaled slowly through her nose, the way she does when choosing words. I knew they were talking more than they should, she said. I did not know about hotel rooms or hallway videos. Her thumb traced a line on the table, a nervous habit I recognized. Laura came to me in pieces, she continued, eyes dropping to her hands. She described your brother screaming, punching walls, throwing things around. I saw bruises once when she rolled up her sleeves to get water. I panicked and grasped for anything that might keep her afloat. I felt my chest tighten, but not fully out of sympathy. If you were that scared, you call a counselor, not my boyfriend. You help her find a way out, not into someone else's bed. My voice had gone cool again, the only thing keeping me from shaking. She flinched at that, then straightened a little. I asked who she trusted enough to confide in, she mentioned Jake. You know, I have always thought he was thoughtful, calmer than your brother. I told her talking to him was better than suffering alone. You did not think that might cross a line, I pushed. Your daughter's partner as a private lifeline for your daughter-in-law. You handed her the match and hoped she would not drop it. The words sounded harsh, but nothing else fit. Her eyes shone now, but she blinked the tears back hard. I warned her not to act on any crush or temptation, she said. I told her if anything physical happened, it had to stop. I thought that was enough of a boundary. Newsflash, it was not. I tapped the phone screen where the clip still waited. This did not happen by accident, Mom, it took planning. Did you even check in with me once when you saw them getting close? I asked how you were doing, she protested, leaning forward. You always tell me you are fine, you brush things off. I heard you had a rough night after the bar incident, then you said you believed them. I took that as a sign not to dig deeper. Because digging deeper might have forced you to pick a side. The sentence came out low, flat, but it hit her. She sat back, lips pressed, like I had finally said the quiet part. I waited, giving her space to either own it or dodge again. I did not want to blow up both your relationship and their marriage, she admitted. I thought if Laura stabilized, if your brother got help, it might fade. I told myself Jake would not actually betray you, not fully. Her voice dropped on that last part, almost a whisper. Well, he did, I answered, lifting the phone slightly. And while he was doing it, you kept me in the dark on purpose. You prioritized his comfort and her crisis over my right to know. Saying it aloud wired something permanent in my head. She reached across the table then, fingers stretching toward my wrist. I pulled back before she could make contact. I am not 5 anymore, I said quietly. You do not get to pat my hand and tell me it is complicated. Pain flashed across her features, but I stayed still. I am not proud of any of this, she said. I thought I was protecting the family, and I ended up doing the opposite. It is not the first time I chose peace over honesty, and that is on me. That admission shocked me more than the earlier ones. Hearing her name her own pattern out loud felt unreal. Do you understand that when this comes out, I will not be quiet? I am done smoothing over messes I did not create. She nodded slowly, shoulders drooping like the fight had drained out. I will not call you dramatic if you speak up, she said. I will not label you unstable, I promise you that. I do not know if that helps at all right now. It does not fix anything, I replied, but my voice softened a fraction. It just means when I tell my brother, I will not also battle you. I cannot carry everyone's feelings while I set my own life on fire. That realization had been building for years, honestly. Her eyes filled again, but these tears seemed different, heavier. If you tell him, he might hate me too, she whispered. I do not know how to live with that, but I probably deserve it. She pressed her lips together to keep them from shaking. He deserves the truth more than you deserve comfort, I said. It came out harsher than I planned, but I did not correct it. Comfort had been her priority for everyone except me. I was done handing it out to people who broke me. We sat in silence for a long moment, just breathing and listening. Finally, she spoke again, voice low. What are you going to do first? She asked it like someone bracing for impact. I am going home to pack his things, I answered. Then I am calling my brother and sending him everything I found. I am not doing family meetings or interventions or soft LAN dings anymore. I am telling the truth and letting everyone decide what to do with it. She closed her eyes for a second, exhaled slowly, then opened them. If he tries to spin you as unstable, I will not back him up, she said. If Laura tries to paint this as some misunderstanding, I will not nod along. I cannot undo what I did, but I can stop covering. I studied her face, searching for any sign of another performance. All I saw was a tired woman who finally realized the cost of her choices. It did not erase the damage, not even close. But it shifted something small inside me. Not forgiveness, not even close. Just a tiny space where I did not need to fight her too. I stood, pocketed my phone, and adjusted my jacket. This is going to get ugly, I said, more to myself than her. She looked up at me, eyes rimmed red, hands clasped tight. Some things already are, she answered. I am just sorry you had to be the one to drag them into daylight. Her voice broke on that last word, but I was already turning away. Walking out of that kitchen, I realized something very clear. Jake's betrayal hurt on one level, knife clean and personal. Laura's betrayal cut another place, twisted through trust and shared holidays. My mother's choice sat deepest, because it taught me exactly where I ranked. On the drive home, my phone buzzed twice in quick succession. A message from Jake, asking what I wanted for dinner. A message from my brother, asking if I had time to talk later. I stared at their names and knew the family we had built was already gone. I walked through the door and went straight for the closet. No shoes off, no lights, no pause. I dragged his duffel out, dropped it on the floor, and unzipped it. Every sound felt louder than it should, like I was breaking something sacred. I pulled his shirts from the hangers and shoved them in fast. Folded, not folded, I did not care anymore. Each piece of fabric going into that bag felt like a tiny verdict. I caught my reflection once and almost did not recognize my own face. My phone buzzed on the dresser while I stuffed another pile inside. Jake again. What do you want for dinner, babe? Dinner, while I was packing him out of my life. I set the phone flat, opened our chat, and stared. Then I hit the plus sign and attached the first photo. Her on his lap, his hand hooked where it never should have been. I added the hotel confirmation and the short video preview. My thumb hovered over send for a second that stretched forever. Once I hit it, there was no way back to pretending. I typed one line above the attachments. Pick up your stuff tonight, we are done. The message whooshed out and my chest went tight. He read it almost immediately, tiny icon popping up under everything. 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared again, like he could not decide. No reply came through, just that anxious little typing bubble flickering. I tossed the phone on the bed and grabbed his jeans from the drawer. Wallet, chain, key ring, all the small things that lived in his pockets. I piled them on top of the clothes like a lost and found. If he wanted his life back, it would be waiting in that bag. While I worked, my brother's name flashed on the screen. I froze, hand still on a stack of socks. Answering him before sending proof felt stupid at this point. So I let it ring out and opened our thread instead. I typed with fingers that did not feel attached to me. I need you to look at some screenshots, do not respond until you finish. Then I dropped everything in. Bar photos, hotel receipts, text snippets, the video thumbnail. The file upload took a couple seconds that made me nauseous. When it finally showed as sent, I waited without breathing. Delivered. Read. Nothing came through for a full minute. Then another. Then my screen lit up with an incoming call from him. I answered on the second ring and put it on speaker. What is this? His voice exploded right away. No hello. I could hear movement in the background, sharp and frantic. Exactly what it looks like, I said, leaning against the dresser. Do not ask if it is fake. I pulled it straight from Jake's phone. He cursed loud, angry, the kind that rattles windows. How long? He demanded, breathing heavy. Hotel at least 3 times, messages for months, bar a bunch, I said. My throat burned, but the numbers came out clear. He went quiet so suddenly I thought the call dropped. Did Mom know? Those 3 words told me he had already connected some dots. She knew they were meeting alone. She told Laura to lean on him. Another hard curse blasted through the line. That explains a lot, he muttered under his breath. I heard something slam, maybe a cabinet, maybe a wall. She picked him as the safe one, that is rich. I am sorry, I started, then stopped. Sorry felt useless, like a bandage on a blown-out door. I am kicking him out tonight, I said instead. You decide what you want to do with her. He breathed into the phone for a few seconds, like he was wrestling himself. Thank you for showing me instead of hiding it, he finally said. There is going to be a lot of noise after this. Do what you need to do, I have my own mess now. We hung up without the usual jokes or soft ending. Just 2 people organizing separate disasters. I stood there staring at my reflection again, chest rising too fast. Then I zipped the duffel closed hard. Next, I emptied the bathroom shelf of his stuff. Razors, cologne, hair gel. I threw them into a cardboard box without bothering to sort. If he wanted to organize his life, he could do it somewhere else. I dragged the bag and box to the front door, then went back for more. Jackets from the hooks, his favorite hoodie from the couch. His sneakers from by the mat, laces tangled like they knew. Everything went into the growing exit pile. My phone finally pinged with a new message from him. What is all this? Can we please talk before you do something stupid? Something stupid. That phrase lit something inside me I did not know I had. I called him instead of answering. He picked up right away, voice tight. Slow down and tell me why you are throwing our life away. Our life, I repeated, a bitter laugh scraping out. I am not throwing anything, I said, moving to the window. I am taking out trash that kept pretending to be furniture. He sucked in air on the other end, offended. You are being dramatic, you know I would never hurt you on purpose. I almost screamed. Hotel bookings, Jake, calendar entries, ride receipts, videos. You do not trip and fall into someone's room 3 times. Silence. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted, softer. Where are you right now? At home packing your things, I answered. If you come in, it is only to pick them up. He let out a humorless breath. I am 10 minutes away, he said. Please do not throw my stuff out on the street. That is all I am asking for at this moment. Your bag is by the door, I said. If you want to fight for anything else, bring honesty with you. I hung up before he could reply and turned my phone face down. I needed a break from watching dots dance on the screen. Waiting for him felt worse than finding the proof. Each sound outside made my shoulders jerk. I walked laps between the door and the kitchen just to stay moving. If I sat down, I knew I would start crying and not stop. His key rattled in the lock faster than the 10 minutes he promised. The door swung open and he stepped in, eyes landing instantly on the bags. He looked between them and me, jaw tight, chest heaving a little. "You are really doing this," he said, voice low. "Take your stuff," I answered, pointing at the pile. "We can talk after that or not at all, your call." He closed the door behind him slowly, like he needed a second. Then he walked over and rested his hand on the duffel handle. "Just tell me what you saw," he said, not looking up yet. I almost respected the question. It was direct at least. I grabbed my phone from the counter and opened the folder again. I held it out, same way I had with Laura and my mother. Bar photo. Her on his lap. His fingers exactly where I would never forget. His eyes flicked over it quickly, then he shrugged one shoulder. "We were drunk," he said. "It got too friendly, I should have moved her off." My grip tightened around the device. I swiped to the next shot, then the one after that. Angles that did not match a single excuse in his arsenal. His mouth twitched, then flattened. "That is not what you think," he tried again. "You know what, skip the bar," I snapped. I tapped into the hotel confirmation and spun the screen toward him. He stared at the dates, the guest count, the location. His throat bobbed once as he swallowed. "We got a room so she could cool down and feel safe," he said. My head snapped back. "You expect me to believe you booked a room for safety?" I asked. "You think I have never stayed in a lobby during a fight?" He dragged a hand over his face, eyes narrowing. "You are twisting everything into the worst possible version. You know how your brother gets, I did not want her alone." There it was again, the pivot back to someone else's rage. I opened the hallway clip without warning and hit play. The sound filled the room, their low laughter, the door buzzing. He lunged for the phone, but I stepped back out of reach. We both watched him pull her close, her legs wrapping around him. I stopped the video right before it cut to the bed. Silence slammed down over us, heavy and ugly. His face had gone pale under the stubble. "That angle is not what it looks like," he muttered weakly. "It looks like you carrying my brother's wife into a room," I said. "It looks like you forgetting I exist for a solid 30 seconds. It looks like you enjoying it, honestly, so stop insulting my intel." "Legends." Each sentence hit him harder than the last. He tilted his head back, eyes on the ceiling, breathing hard. "Okay," he said finally. "I crossed lines, I let it go too far." "Oh, you think I shot back?" "I never meant to fall for her," he added quickly. That word froze the air between us. "Say that again," I responded, voice very quiet. "Go ahead, try that phrase one more time." He realized his mistake instantly. "I care about you, I always have, you know that." I was lonely in ways I did not know how to explain. I felt needed, I made horrible choices. "Your loneliness is not my debt," I said. "And it sure as hell is not Laura's excuse either. You both used me as cover while you played house in secret." My voice shook, but the words stayed clear. "I always came home to you," he tried. Like that was some gold star on his chart. "You always came home after her," I corrected. "That is not the same thing, and you know it." His shoulders sagged, bag still untouched by his feet. "What do you want from me right now?" he asked. Groveling tears, some huge dramatic confession, what? The frustration in his tone almost made me laugh. "I want you gone," I answered simply. "I want space that does not smell like lies. I want you to carry your own weight out of my doorway." That was it, no big speech, no list of demands. He stared at me for a long beat, searching my face. "Is there anything I can say that changes this?" he asked. The fact that he had to ask told me everything. "No," I said, "there really is not." Something in him accepted that, or shut off, I am not sure. He bent, grabbed the duffel strap, tested the weight. "Can I call you in a few days?" he asked quietly. "Just to check if you are okay." I almost answered yes because muscle memory is strong. Instead, I shook my head once. You lost the right to be my comfort line. Let your therapist or your buddies check on you. His jaw clenched at that, but he nodded. He grabbed the box, tucked it under one arm. At the door he paused, looking back one last time. I still love you, he said, voice low and rough. I believed that in a twisted way. I also believed he loved being needed more. Love without loyalty does nothing for me, I answered. Take care of yourself far away from me. He stood there a second longer, eyes shining, then turned the handle. The door shut behind him with a dull thud. No dramatic slam, no screaming, just that solid final click. The quiet after almost made me dizzy. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor. For a minute, maybe more, I just let everything hit at once. Grief for what I thought we had, fury at what they actually did. Relief too, deep and strange, humming under all the hurt. My phone lit up near my hip, vibrating across the wood. A new message from my brother. She admitted it, I am staying at a friend's place tonight. Thank you for not keeping this from me. I stared at his words until they blurred. Then I typed back, fingers heavy. I am sorry you are hurting, but I am glad you know. Call if you need anything, I mean that. He replied with a single yeah. No emojis, no jokes, just that short answer. It was enough to tell me he was hanging on by a thread. And that we were at least standing on the same side now. Later, after the shaking eased, I pulled myself up. I walked through the apartment room by room. No more duffel, no more sneakers, no keys on the hook. Just the empty spaces where his things had rested. I sat at the table with my laptop and opened a blank page. The cursor blinked at me, patient, a little smug. I dragged the folder of saved proof into the corner of the screen. Photos, logs, reservations, all lined up like a case file. Part of me wanted to upload everything to social media. Tag them, tag my mother, tag anyone who ever doubted me. Let the whole world see the pattern I had been forced to live in. Watch them scramble to explain their choices out loud. Another part of me wanted quiet. To pack my own bag and vanish for a while. No family group chats, no explanations, no questions. Just space to figure out who I was without their chaos. My finger hovered over the trackpad, right above the folder. I could drag it into the recycling bin, pretend I had moved on. Or I could drag it into a drive marked with a single angry word. Keep it as insurance for a day when someone tried to rewrite history. In the end, I made a new folder with a plain name. No drama, no insult, just the date. I moved everything into it and locked it with a password. Evidence, sleeping, waiting, in case anyone ever called me a liar again. I leaned back in the chair and let out a long breath. I was single. My brother's marriage was cracked wide open. My mother was sitting with choices she could not pray away. And me. I had a quiet apartment, a tired heart, and a story no one had heard yet. Not the polished version, not the family spy. But the real one. The one I am telling you now, deciding how much to burn and how public to make the flames.